Hey YouTube, welcome to A Sold Out Marriage. I'm Tammy and this is Erin.
Hi.
And we are going to talk to you today about role reversals, specifically sex role reversals, and high desire, low desire situations. So I'm going to let Erin start talking about a little bit of a history of us.
Us, yeah. Mm-hmm. Feels so weird. Whole story all about us. So when we first got married and we decided that we needed to talk about marriage issues, marriage things, our natural direction was to talk to the pastor, go to marriage conferences, do all the stuff that our church was prescribing for people that are married that want to know more about their marriage to do. And so we did those things, and to make a long story short, we kind of felt a little bit
Abnormal.
Yeah. We felt a little bit like what we were thinking and feeling was not being addressed or touched on. And we didn't really think that at the time, but as time went on, we realized that the issues that we were noticing, at least some of them, were not being addressed. Not to say that those programs are bad, but sometimes they just don't reach a practical point.
Yeah.
For somebody that is dealing with stuff that's not typical, or at least not the stereotype, which, to be definitive, what we learned was the stereotype for marriage, typically for a Christian
or sex
American
specifically
marriage, was that for sex specifically, that was that the man was always pursuing and wanting sex, and the woman was basically the gatekeeper, okaying or not okaying the whole situation. And so we found ourselves in a role reversal where, not that I didn't want it or wasn't able to, but I
just wasn't the high desire for it.
I didn't have the high desire for it like we were taught stereotypically I should have.
And on the other end, I did, which is also the opposite of the stereotype, because I'm the one that still to this we can talk about more at some point, but you also have ups and downs. It's not always the same, but
there's cycles other than monthly cycles that people go through, where there's seasons where maybe I'll be more high desire and she'll be low desire, and somehow we end up finding ourselves on the opposite ends of the spectrum sometimes.
Oh, and I think I want to pause to say we refer to this as a high desire, low desire situation, and that's something that we learned from One Extraordinary Marriage. And so you can look at podcast 111 for High Desire, Low Desire podcast. It's the podcast that really changed the way we started seeing our marriage, ourselves, and our sex life. It really radically changed things and shook things up in a really good way. But yeah, so I typically, other than the kind of highs and lows, overall, I'm the higher desire for sex. I typically am the higher desire, and he is typically the lower desire, and Let's where we
keep it real. You want it as much as possible.
Yes, basically. And that was the problem, though, is that now we can joke about it and tease about it, but at the time in the beginning of our marriage, I was left a lot of times feeling rejected because I would get myself all gussied up and just lay in bed for, seriously, sometimes hours, hoping that he would notice or hoping that he would come in and want to have sex, and then he would come in and go to bed. And I was like, how did he not notice that I was dressed up all sexy? Or how did he not notice that I was like laying there? Like, I mean, really, like it. So then it made me feel like I wasn't desired. Like he did not see me. And
there's two things there that we can kind of really quickly touch on, unpack. Is one is your spouse can't read your mind as much as you think you know each other and know what each other wants. You can't read each other's mind, and that was one of the things we had to learn probably later on than would have been ideal is to communicate. And honestly, most of you out there, most of us that are married, are terrible at communication. The other is we felt not only rejected. You felt not only rejected for me, but we both felt a little outcast, a little unusual compared to what we were made to believe was the norm.
Well, yeah, because society and church too makes comments like, "Oh, guys, you know how much you want sex," and it was always kind of like, "Oh, like something's wrong with us." And we have now discovered there's nothing wrong with us, and in fact, now we have put tools into place so that it's not an issue.
And that tool specifically is
Intimacy lifestyle,
which we've talked a little bit about.
Yes, and
in a nutshell,
yeah,
scheduling sex.
Yeah, and initiating sex. And really what's interesting is that tool helped us to be able to have more of an equal, so there's not like tug-o-war when it comes to sex, but it's also the stereotypical version of the guys always wanting sex and the ladies not. The tools still apply because in that opposite situation, it's still the same. There's still that rejection and that tug-of-war and all of that. And so,
what it comes down to is you're participating in this as a team. It's not him or her. It's both of you. It's us.
Yeah. So intimacy lifestyle, we've talked about that before. Look at one of our earlier videos on that. But really what we wanted to get across tonight is that if there are those of you out there who are role reversal, that nothing's wrong with you. God made you exactly as you're supposed to be made, and that's okay, but you just have to work in as a team, like Aaron had mentioned, to find out how you're going to navigate those differing levels of desire.
And if you're not in a role reversal situation, the same thing applies. You're working together, communicating with each other, and that doesn't mean just like sitting down for coffee and talking about the weather or school or the kids. This means talking frankly about what you like or don't like about sex. You don't have to talk. In fact, it's sometimes preferred to not talk about sex while you're in the bedroom. You set up time to talk about it with your spouse outside of the bedroom, where you can have a conversation about it and not and believe me, this is not an easy thing to jump into if you're not used to it, but you have to start somewhere. You have to start doing it.
In fact, I put a plug in for that, because the first time, I'll never forget it, the first time that we sat down and talked just casually on the couch about the way that we wanted to be touched sexually and what we were really wanting and enjoying was after a One Extraordinary Marriage workshop. And it was awkward and weird, but then that night we had the best sex ever. So emotional
up to that point,
because we're much more experienced now. But I don't know, do you have anything else to add?
No, I mean, I think it's just important to know that being married doesn't mean that you have to follow a prescribed or a stereotypical or even a considered normal pattern of behaving with each other. You have to find out what works for you. Whether it's having sex with each other once a week, 3 times a week, or 5 times a week, or whatever it is that you do in this particular area. It's got to work for you and your partner, you as a couple. It's not what we do. It's not what One Extraordinary Marriage, Tony and Alisa do. It's what you do, and it's what makes you guys happy and work together.
Yeah, I think that wraps it up. Have a great week, YouTube, and we'll see you next Monday.
Okay.
Bye.